I'm in a drunk online argument, and now I can't back down. For some reason I'm spoiling for a fight. I've had some booze, I've got the time, and there's no one else around, so I'll happily get into it all night. I don't give air to petty insults, but assertions have been made, some of which are frankly quite absurd. Usually I don't dare do this, but right now I'm not afraid, and I won't be satisfied until I've had the final word. I realise it's probably not helping anyone. Leaving it alone might well be best, but I've had to smile and rise above the snark for far too long, and now I've had a drink, I'd like to get things off my chest. What ho folks, Thomas Benjamin Wilde Esquire here with song number 48 of my Song a Week project. This one was inspired by a moment I had last week when I was going through internet comments after a couple of drinks. Usually I ignore the snark and the petty insults on there. But this time round I decided to challenge it and decided to get into an argument with someone. Not my greatest moment, not my finest moment, but it is something that happens every so often. Normally I'm quite good at being the better person and just blocking or deleting. And if someone is actually kind of being really insulting and saying things that might offend other people, then quite often I will usually just block and delete. However, in this particular instance, they weren't being particularly offensive. They were just being pedantic, and that winds me up as much. So I decided to clap back and decided to have a conversation with them afterwards. Now, it has been known in the past that I've done that, felt embarrassed by it the next day and deleted the whole thread and conversations. I don't go looking for it on the internet. I'm not someone to go into other people's pages and start debating and discussing things in there. But when somebody comes into my comment section, the instant reaction is that you want to react, usually to tell people to fuck off. But it can be far more interesting to actually engage in a proper discussion about it. You can probably guess what video it related to. It was about the difference of opinion and human rights not being a difference of opinion. They'd taken umbrage with the idea that human rights were something to be fought for, I think, and tried to get me to define exactly what I meant by them. So I decided to be a bit sassy. And they ended up calling me an effing R word, which did make me laugh as well. It is still up on Facebook, I think. I didn't delete those comments the other day. Because you get someone kind of trading petty insults, then you know you've won the argument. But yes, it was inspired by that. Not my finest moment, I must admit. I usually do rise above it. Every so often, someone comes in there and I think, yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna get into this with them. It's a very rare occasion that happens for me, though. I have to admit. I played this on my Flight Soprano Ukulele, details of which can be found in the description below the video. Now, technically, folks, it has been exactly 1 year since I started the Song a Week project. Okay, I know this is video number 48. I have taken off. I must have taken off 4 weeks over the last year because we're not quite at 52 yet. And my aim was always to get to 52. Well, my hope was to get to 52. My aim was just to carry on doing this until I got bored of it or frustrated or ran out of ideas. But it seems to be continuing on. So in 4 weeks' time, it'll be a year, or it'll be a year's worth. So I've done 52. However, I am being quite strict with myself as well, because technically 6 of those songs weren't new songs. They had already been written for the album. And if you remember last year, there was a period of time where I spent, I think it was 6 weeks, where I wanted to get the album finished off. And so rather than writing new songs during that time, I played the new ones from the album. So technically we've got another 10 weeks of this because I'm going to be strict with myself with that. Okay. So I'm looking for ideas of when I do eventually get to 52 weeks, what should I do? How should I mark that occasion? I get the feeling this final song will be very underwhelming. But But yes, it'd be lovely to see what your ideas are for what I should do to kind of finish off this project. The plan is to turn all of these songs into an album, a 52-song album, which I'll sell through my website, and the title of which is going to be Songs for Short Attention Spans, because they're all very short. That title was given to me by one of my patrons on Patreon. So if you're interested in accessing all kinds of exclusive material, joining in with discussions like this, then you can follow the link in the description and join my Patreon community for as little as £3 a month. Where you'll have access to all kinds of exclusive stuff like seeing these videos first, MP3 downloads of all the songs from the videos as they go up. As well as exclusive live performances, etc., etc. As I say, link is in the description for that. But yes, your suggestions for what I should do to mark when I actually get to the point of having done 52 songs, which will be in about 10 weeks' time, I would imagine, or a little bit more actually, because next week I'm definitely going to be taking off because we've got builders in from Wednesday. So we need to get the dog out of the house. But yes, any suggestions that you have of how I should mark the occasion when I do actually get to 52 songs would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your comments from last week's video, which of course was about rail replacement bus services. It's interesting actually how many people have experiences with this kind of thing. I know in the States not particularly, because the transport system isn't the same as it is over here, but some interesting people in Canada who are used to that kind of thing, and also people in Europe talking to me about their train services. So just to read a few comments here now. Angel Girl 976 says, in Sydney the rail replacements used to happen only so often, but after years of lockdown the rail maintenance was massively behind, so it feels like at least once a month the buses come out on the weekends. It does feel pretty consistent at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, over here as well. It doesn't ever feel like they've made any improvements to the tracks either. So I don't know exactly what they're doing. Piotr UK 6CB, I don't know what that is. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. A couple of years ago I was travelling by train and the engine caught fire. Sounds serious. The wait for bus replacement took way too long for my liking, so my mum picked me up. That's very nice of her. They normally won't let us off the train, actually, if it breaks down. You have to sit on the train between stations. I've had that before. You just end up sitting there twiddling your thumbs a little bit and hoping that the train will start up again. I've not had to get off the train and walk along tracks before. I know that happens very rarely. So I'm imagining that when it caught fire, it arrived at a station and you all got off. It'd be interesting to know anyway. Colleen Marine 8907 says, I live in upstate New York, I think rural farm area, where there is limited to zero public transportation, and I've also studied in both Geneva and Quebec. The vast differences in public transportation is mind-boggling. Yes, because actually public transportation in the UK technically should be very good, and it is when it's working, but it's quite often not. But yeah, I realise that over in the States they don't really do much in terms of kind of regular train services and things like that. So yeah, there is quite a big difference between it, I think. Rhubarb Gin says, when I lived in Amsterdam, weekend train cancellations were so common that I just got used to seeing read NIT not running on their departure boards. One time I was in a hurry, misread Readnit. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm ruining the Dutch language. Cancelled as read not cancelled, and thought it was nice of them to acknowledge non-cancellations as the exception. So yeah, when the cancellations are so regular, they actually have to just tell you that a train's not cancelled. That's quite interesting, isn't it? I had an experience, in fact, at London Bridge Station as well, playing in the same venue that I was playing in when I had this rail replacement bus service experience. There was some extreme weather. There was a limited train service on the line, so I kind of rushed to get the last train back from London Bridge. I was stood on the platform with one other chap, who was a young lad with headphones in, and the last train pulled up and drove straight through the station. I caught eyes with the train driver, and it felt like he was looking at me as if to say, I'm driving straight past you. And the train went straight through, and then the station started closing down around us. And then Transport for London had to organise us a taxi back to Bedford from London, which is a good kind of 52 miles. And I had to share it with a young lad who was watching TikToks without headphones in on his phone, which is quite interesting. So yeah, at least they actually acknowledged it was their mistake and sorted us out, because I would have been stuck in London that night because there were no other trains going from it. So yeah, cancellations are an absolute nightmare. Franco Walker 4662 says, I can't use trains anymore. The booking and tickets are all done on app, and as I don't have a smartphone, I don't have any way to buy a ticket. Yeah. Well, this is so many of those stations now, you don't even get a paper ticket. You have to just do it as a scan thing on your phone. Yeah. Well, I know Bedford train station, you can buy tickets at the ticket gate. But yeah, usually I do it through the Trainline app. But if you don't have a smartphone, yeah, I bet that's a bit of a challenge. Thanks for your comments and questions. As always, keep them coming. It makes these videos much more interesting. A quick reminder of where I'm going to be playing live over the next few weeks. Next Saturday on the 22nd, I'll be up in Nottingham, down in Nottingham, but depending on where you are, at the Angel Microbrewery, or the Chapel at the Angel, with my good friend Chris Taverner. That should be a really good fun show. I haven't been to Nottingham for a couple of years, so it'd be good to see you out and about for that. And it's selling quite quickly, so do get in there to avoid disappointment if you do want to come to that one. Then on Friday the 4th of April, I'm going to be in Manchester at Gulliver's. Again, I haven't been to Manchester for a couple of years. I'll be with Chris Taverner for that one as well. It's his hometown, so it'll be a hometown show for him. Come and join the fun if you are about in Manchester on the 4th of April. And then on Friday the 18th of April, I'm going to be in Shrewsbury at Albert Shed with Professor Elemental and Aubrey Blakelidge. I've not been to Shrewsbury before. I'm quite looking forward to it. I haven't played with Professor Elemental for a long time, so it should be really good. Again, if you're in the Shrewsbury area, do come along and see us. As I said before, you can find details of Flight Ukuleles in the link in the description, along with a link to my Patreon community where you can get exclusive access to various content for as little as £3 a month. It'd be lovely to see you on there, as well as a link to all of the shows that I've got coming up in 2025. Thanks ever so much for watching. As I said before, there won't be a video next week because we've got the builders in who are going to finally sort out that spare room for us. Usual service will continue the week afterwards, I'm hoping. Until next time, stay safe and toodle pip.